Hello, and thank you for joining the Harassment Prevention Training. My name is Selena Hernandez, and I am the Human Resources Business Partner assigned to your building. This training is mandatory and required by all California employees. This training is approximately 1 hour. The original video was designed as an interactive course. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, a pre-recorded training was created to ensure the health and safety of all participants. Please listen and watch as we navigate through this course together. An acknowledgement will be required as proof of course completion. Please hold for a brief moment before the training begins. Thank you.
All right, next one, ready?
Oh.
No.
5.
5?
Yeah,
You're gonna
the
get this
last one-
person. We work with these people.
Last one's better.
5.
Last one's an 8.
What is that?
Best bodies in tech.
Are you kidding me?
Nope, there's a winner every week.
That can't be real.
Ask her. She wants to do it.
I think it's funny. I'd totally crush it.
You would too. You know, okay, look, so I took this picture of you today, and if you would just please let me post it. It's really good.
That is so wrong. I don't know where to start.
What? You look hot.
I don't want to look hot. I want to look professional.
Sorry, geez.
That better be deleted. If you post that, you'll regret it. Seriously.
Okay. Get it.
Hi, I'm Marissa Dragoo.
And I'm Kevin O'Neill. We're employment law attorneys with Littler Mendelsohn, the world's largest labor and employment practice. We're here to talk about the potential issues raised by this story and many others.
We'll cover what you need to know about unlawful workplace harassment, especially sexual harassment, along with the related issues of discrimination and retaliation.
And since showing disrespect can lead to even worse behaviors, we'll also talk about topics that are not always thought to be harassment related, such as fairness and civility.
This is a 1-hour course. This course is divided into a number of micro courses that you can pause and come back to, but you won't be able to skip forward until you've completed each section. At any time, you can click the Ask a Question button for information on where to go for help, or answers to questions you might have about this course or its contents. So, let's get started.
The first 3 micro courses we'll be covering are quid pro quo, hostile work environment, and forms of harassment.
There are 2 types of unlawful workplace harassment. The first type is quid pro quo sexual harassment. This occurs when a supervisor takes a tangible employment action for or against an employee who either agrees or refuses to go along with that manager's request for sex or romantic activity.
There you are. Did I scare you? It's no need to be scared.
Right. It's okay. Don't worry.
Here, put this down. Let me see you.
Oh, I should finish up. I have to pick up my kid.
Yeah, I know. That's why you asked for this shift, right? Do you like it? Do you want to keep it?
Yes, it's working out great.
We are going to revisit this clear-cut example of quid pro quo harassment later in the program. Now let's look at an example that is not this clear, where a manager's behavior might cause a problem.
As you watch this new associate interact with her senior vice president, use the slider to track how comfortable or uncomfortable the situation is for her.
I was excited about my new job. 3 rounds of interviews before being selected. Felt like my career was taking off. On my first day, I got to meet the senior vice president. I thought, wow, exposure to the top.
Sure, but make sure that they know we're behind them all the way. Right. Okay, good. All right, talk soon. I am sorry about that. Welcome aboard.
Thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Shannon, right? You look extremely fit. Are you a runner?
Yes, actually.
How far do you go?
3 or 4 miles when I have time.
I go during lunch. Why don't you bring your gear tomorrow and join me?
That's okay.
No, I insist. I'll show you my route. It'll be fun. Yeah, I'm sorry. I scheduled an appointment right now, but why don't we continue this over drinks and dinner? Meet me in the lobby, 6 o'clock.
Did you move the slider closer to the uncomfortable end during these comments by David? How could David have handled this situation better?
The three options listed on the screen are no need to handle differently. This is how workplace relationships are built. Try to make a connection without making comments that are too personal too soon. And rely on what Shannon says when deciding whether to back off. The option that we're going to select for this scenario is try to make a connection without making comments that are too personal too soon.
Good choice. Shannon's discomfort grew as David began by talking about her body and increased as he proposed personal interactions outside of the workplace. Quid pro quo harassment is a legal term that applies when people with power in the workplace make sexual demands on those with less power. Employees have the right to object to sexual behavior at work and can make a claim of harassment if they are subjected to sexual demands, whether obvious or subtle, and whether or not they speak up about it at the time it happens.
The second type of unlawful workplace harassment is called hostile work environment harassment. Hostile work environment harassment is defined as unwelcome behavior related to a legally protected characteristic that is ongoing, pervasive, or severe, and unreasonably interferes with an individual's ability to do their job.
Please note that even a single incident of harassing conduct can be enough to constitute hostile work environment harassment.
So, I always thought that harassment, well, especially sexual harassment, meant a guy trying to get hooked up and going too far. But I don't know. I think it's more than that. I mean, it seems like a bunch of us at work are getting, what you'd call harassed. It's just not funny after a while.
Can you recognize comments that might contribute to a hostile work environment? In the following scene, mark with a red flag any such comments that you hear.
Hey, what's going on?
Man, you're late.
Well, you try to keep a schedule. Soccer moms and foreigners? They shouldn't be allowed on the road.
Excuses. Probably got a late start. What? Messing around with the old lady this morning?
This morning? Every morning.
Like I said, my man.
You know what, guys? I'm out of here.
Come on, guys. Really? What, I should be saying my prayers like you every morning?
Yeah, let me think about it. Which would I rather do? Pray for love or get some?
Nice.
No, you're nice. So nice.
Wait, I get what's going on here. You guys got something going here, huh?
Hey.
Him, I'm not surprised, but you? Getting a little desperate, huh?
Watch it. Look at that, watch it. Ooh.
This scene included potentially harassing behavior that relates to the legally protected characteristics of national origin,
Soccer moms and foreigners? They shouldn't be allowed on the road.
religion,
What, I should be saying my prayers like you every morning?
and sex.
No, you're nice. So nice.
This morning? Every morning.
What steps should Vince consider taking?
The three options listed for this scenario are let it go, it's not really harassment and people need to have some fun at work. Ignore it, the driver works for a different department so your boss doesn't manage him. Or ask your boss or HR to tell them to stop. Everyone needs to follow the rules. This third option is the one we will be selecting.
So our supervisor told me that if things get out of hand like this again, that I should let him know. But maybe it won't, because I saw him talking to the driver, and it looked like he was really listening.
Good choice.
Your supervisor will want to know if a conversation or other behavior in your work group is bothering you so that something can be done to stop it. If for some reason you don't feel that your supervisor can help, talk to their supervisor or go directly to HR or any other resource in your organization that can help.
Understand that behavior can be considered harassment regardless of the gender of the people involved. Women can harass men and other women, and men can harass women and other men.
In general, it takes a pattern of behavior to reach the level of a hostile environment. One stray comment, unless exceptionally severe, would usually not be enough. But one thing leads to another. Even if questionable behavior doesn't seem all that bad at first, it has a corrosive effect over time.
A hostile work environment is unwelcome behavior that unreasonably interferes with an individual's ability to do their job, could be offensive to a reasonable employee and is offensive to at least one employee, can target a person of the same gender or another gender from the harasser. When these behaviors are observed, an appropriate response is to speak up or get help. Harassment can be verbal, such as an offensive joke, or it can be visual, such as objectionable online content, or it can be physical, such as inappropriate touching. Let's look at some scenarios and determine what form of harassment is happening. Phil made up a nickname for Matt that insults Matt's mental capacity after he made a mistake on a major project. Matt has asked him to stop using the nickname multiple times, but Phil refuses. What type of harassment is this?
The options listed are verbal, visual, and physical. For this case, we'll be selecting verbal.
Good choice. Abigail is the only woman in a team of equity sales traders. The men on the team use a number of derogatory terms for women as part of their banter. She has asked them to stop, but they say that she needs to find a sense of humor. What type of harassment is this?
The options listed are verbal, visual, and physical. For this scenario, we'll be selecting verbal.
Good choice. Verbal forms of harassment can include insults or slurs, jokes at others' expense, and offensive nicknames, epithets, or inappropriate teasing. Don frequently sends emails with sexual jokes and cartoons. Some of his friends find the emails funny, while others are offended and have asked him to stop. What type of harassment is this?
The options listed are verbal, visual, and physical. For this example, we'll be selecting visual.
Good choice. Gabby uses one of the disabled parking spaces in the parking lot. A few of the people in the department have started complaining that they don't think she deserves a spot. Whenever Gabby walks past, some of the staff start limping behind her, mocking her. What type of harassment is this?
The options listed are verbal, visual, and physical. For this example, we will be selecting visual.
Good choice. Visual forms of harassment include offensive posters, cartoons, photos. They also include electronic communications, such as emails and messages, web browsing of objectionable material, and social media posts that affect the workgroup. Visual behavior can also include mocking people with gestures or making faces behind their back, or mimicking how they walk in order to get a laugh at their expense. Even staring at a person in a sexual, mean, or aggressive way. After winning a big contract, Jim asks Gwen to go for drinks after work. Gwen declines, but Jim blocks the door and tries to convince her to go. What type of harassment is this?
The options listed are verbal, visual, and physical. For this scenario, we'll be selecting physical.
Good choice. Jacob is a junior electrician on a large construction project. He is quiet and doesn't join in the lunch conversations. One of the other guys on site, Clive, doesn't seem to like him. He has started pretending to punch Jacob when he walks past. What type of harassment is this?
The options listed are verbal, visual, and physical. For this example, we will select physical.
Good choice. Physical forms of harassment can include unwelcome touching, blocking a person's path, or inappropriately invading their personal space. Verbal, visual, and physical behavior can all lead to harassment claims in the workplace.
The next three topics we'll cover are welcome versus unwelcome conduct, social media, and reasonable person standards.
In this section, we're going to define welcome and unwelcome conduct, who gets to decide what is welcome, and who can be affected, whether or not they are participants in or targets of the behavior.
How did it go last night? Great. Both times.
Those fertility calendars really get you going.
Yeah. Motivation. As if we need it.
Did you try those new positions you were telling me about?
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you.
Hey, I am not interested in anything that's going to get me pregnant.
I really think it's going to work this time.
Well, at the rate you're going, sure seems like it.
Would you mind changing the subject? I'm trying to work over here.
Don't be such a prude. Love is a beautiful thing.
Don't you worry. You'll get it.
Some of the employees in this scene welcomed what was happening, but not all of them did. Can you spot which is which? If you feel that a character welcomed the conduct of the others, mark them with a yes. If the conduct seemed unwelcome to a character, mark them with a no.
In this video clip, there are two colleagues speaking to each other that are comfortable with this conversation. They are welcoming the conversation. There's a third colleague who can overhear the conversation, and it is unwelcomed. So for this, we will be selecting yes for the two female colleagues and no for the male colleague.
While these two welcomed their own conversation, a coworker nearby did not.
Observers can be subject to harassment if they witness behavior they find to be unwelcome, even if the behavior is not directed at them. This is true even if others are willingly participating in the offensive behavior, and the instigator genuinely did not intend any harm.
Because there tends to be a lot of confusion, let's look more closely at this very fundamental question. What is unwelcome conduct? Unwelcome conduct is behavior that is not wanted, not requested, and/or not willingly reciprocated. This means that the recipient didn't like it, didn't ask for it, and is not willingly participating in it.
Understand that the focus is on the recipient or observer of the behavior, not on the person who is doing it.
Let's watch another vignette. This time you will be watching for the moments when one of the characters expresses that someone's conduct is unwelcome. Anytime that happens, click the red button.
I told you downloading porn causes problems.
Come on, man. Everybody does it. Besides, I don't see what the big deal is. My screen just froze.
No, everybody doesn't do it. And now I'm gonna have to scan the whole network for malware.
How long is that gonna take?
That's not the point. The point is that I don't want to have to keep looking at this garbage on your screen.
Hey, I have a stressful job, okay? This helps me relax.
Tough. Take up yoga.
Anyway, it's my computer.
No, it's the company's computer, and I'm the guy you call when this crap breaks it.
There were multiple instances when Ian expressed his frustration with Henry's unwelcome behavior. He even says it quite clearly.
I don't want to have to keep looking at this garbage on your screen.
This employee is clearly concerned about inappropriate material on his colleague's computer. Unlike accidental exposure to an offensive message that sneaks past the spam filter, having to deal with pornography accessed or downloaded by another employee is clearly not an expected part of his workday.
Unwelcome conduct is behavior that is not wanted, not requested, and not reciprocated. Observers can be offended even if they are not targeted or directly involved in the unwelcome activities.
While electronic devices are an essential tool for communication and expression, this same technology can cause workplace harassment or bullying. It doesn't matter if inappropriate content is initiated outside of the workplace or on personal devices. Once it enters the workplace, it must be addressed.
Yep, that is the definition of sexy right there.
I know she's athletic, but I didn't know she had
Right?
that.
Yeah. He's got all the right tools.
Man, wow.
You don't see that every day, especially not around here. Man, the girls around here are whack.
Why can't we have more secretaries like that?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Love
You know
for
what,
her to.
guys? We're at work, okay? Would be appropriate?
Think about the following examples of social media in the workplace and indicate whether the situation could potentially be considered harassment or just in poor taste. If your organization has social media policies, use them to answer the question. If not, just use your better judgment. Liam posted an unflattering photo of Brittany, a coworker he dislikes. The caption on the photo insulted Brittany's country of origin. Is this harassment or just in poor taste?
The options listed on the screen are: Liam's conduct was harassment and you should report it to a manager and/or HR. Liam's conduct was in poor taste and not very nice. Or Liam's conduct was not harassment because it only happened once. The option we will be selecting here is Liam's conduct was harassment and you should report it to a manager and/or HR.
Behavior could be considered harassment when it touches on protected characteristics or when another employee is made to feel harassed. You are in the break room and overhear a group of employees having a heated debate about local elections. Derek is using his phone to show controversial social media posts about a proposed tax increase for schools. His coworkers try to shout him down. Is this harassment or just in poor taste?
For this scenario, the three options listed are: Derek's conduct is harassment and you should report the situation to your manager and/or HR. Derek's conduct is in poor taste, but if you're offended, you can leave the break room. Or the entire group's conduct is in poor taste and they should stop. This is the option we will be selecting.
The answer to this question depends on the social media policies of each organization, but the group's behavior is probably not harassment. It is, however, causing disruption. If you observe a situation like this, it would be fine to tell them all to change the subject.
The First Amendment right to freedom of speech applies specifically to individuals and their government. However, in the workplace, this right becomes subordinate to an employer's responsibility to maintain a discrimination-free and a harassment-free workplace. Non-governmental employers can regulate personal expression in the workplace, especially if such expression makes anyone in the workplace reasonably feel that they are being harassed.
Social media and other electronic communications can be a source of harassment and need to be managed. Employers can generally prohibit offensive content, even when it is brought into the workplace from outside or on personal devices. Follow your organizational policies when responding to concerns about social media and electronic communications.
The next set of topics we'll be covering are unwanted romantic attention, other protections, and abusive conduct and bullying.
Asking for dates or otherwise trying to create a personal or romantic relationship in a work-related setting can be problematic. Whether it happens on the job or off-site, the same protections and standards for proper conduct apply if the setting could be considered related to the workplace.
As you watch this conference attendee interact with a presenter at a business conference, use the slider to track whether his conduct is appropriate or inappropriate.
Oh, hi. Great presentation today.
Thanks.
Hey, can I join you?
Okay, sure. He had my contact information, of course, but then he ran into me later at the cafe. 5 years now, I think. Or Did he follow me there?
Top of the line, I'm telling you.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, no, you did a great job taking.
Well, he seemed nice enough at the time. He told me about his kids, he even showed me pictures of them. Asked me how long I was staying at the conference.
Just because someone is being sociable and responding to you, that should not be interpreted as a green light to persist with your attentions.
Later, he sent me a text. Nice to meet you and all of that. It seemed a little over the top, so I didn't reply. And then he called my hotel room. Hello? 10 o'clock at night. He sounded a little drunk. Who is this? He said, I'm not really stalking you, but I guess I'm stalking you. You're downstairs in my hotel? How did you even know what hotel I was staying at? He wanted to go get a nightcap. No, I'm not interested in a nightcap. Did I somehow give him the impression that I was interested in that? I already mentioned I had a boyfriend, and he's married with kids. You know what? I really have to go. No, I'm sorry. I don't think it's a good idea. But have fun and I'm gonna go. Okay. Oh.
Here are the instances when you should have moved the slider to inappropriate. Rebecca was uncomfortable when Jeremy texted her. The situation became even more inappropriate when Jeremy called her at 10 p.m. and asked her out for a drink.
No means no. Maybe means no. Persisting after being turned down is not okay, even if you believe your intent is innocent. Even if you are interested in establishing a relationship, if they tell you that they aren't interested, or otherwise indicate unwelcomeness through body language or other nonverbal signals, you must respect that. Unwanted romantic interest can be a form of harassment if it persists when the other person is clearly not interested or has asked for it to stop.
If you were Rebecca's coworker and she came to you for advice on what to do, what would you tell her?
The three options listed are: there's nothing she can do, this happened at an outside event, this sounds like harassment, she should report it, or there's no point in reporting it, Jeremy doesn't work for your company. The option we will be selecting is this sounds like harassment and she should report it.
That's correct. This is harassment, even though it happened at an off-site event and with a third party. Unwanted romantic interest at work can be a form of harassment. Employees are protected from unwelcome behavior that occurs in any work-related setting.
Hey, how's it going, Grandpa?
Come on, Pops, let's go. Don't be late.
The concept of harassment has evolved out of society's sense of fairness and its laws against discrimination. Harassment is a form of discrimination because it can lead to a work environment that makes doing a job and keeping it more difficult, unpleasant, or downright unhealthy.
We have put a fair amount of emphasis on sexual harassment, but it is important to talk a little more about other forms of harassment and discrimination. Let's watch how personal biases at work can make others feel like they are not a part of the team.
I don't really feel harassed. I mean, people are entitled to their own opinions, and nobody here is really causing me any trouble. I think they like me well enough. But sometimes they make comments that make me feel like I don't really belong.
Yes, ma'am. I took everything down that we talked about. I'm going to redirect your call right now. Thank you for calling. Have a nice day. Oh my gosh, another one. I couldn't understand a single thing she was saying.
It sounded like you took care of her problem well enough.
Maybe. I have no idea. Besides, it took 3 times longer than it should have. I mean, why do people come here and not even want to learn our language?
Hey, it's not so easy. I came here when I was little, so I'm okay. But my family, they're still having a hard time.
Didn't mean you.
I know, but still, they try.
And no offense, but they keep on hiring these people whose names we can't even pronounce. Not to mention those religions they bring over with them. We got enough of that already.
I need to take another call. Hi.
The Civil Rights Act is a federal law that was passed in 1964. Title VII of this act provides protection from discrimination based on characteristics that include sex, race, color, national origin, and religion. In 2020, the Supreme Court held that the Title VII prohibition against sex discrimination also prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Over the years, additional federal laws have been passed to protect individuals on the basis of age, disability, pregnancy, citizenship, veteran status, and more. Harassment of an individual may cover any of these categories or more than one category. Personal biases and insensitive remarks can make coworkers feel excluded. Certain characteristics are protected by law from discrimination and therefore harassment. Be sure to speak up or get help when conversations in your work group include offensive statements about others' protected characteristics.
Sexual harassment and hostile work environments don't just spring up out of nowhere. They often start in an atmosphere of bullying and disrespect that may not at first involve legally protected characteristics, but can quickly escalate and cross that line.
As you watch this radiologist interact with the hospital administrator, tap the button when you hear comments that could qualify as bullying.
I mean, this doesn't even make sense. I've never even seen anything like this. Do you think compliance is a freaking joke? Are you stupid? Do you not understand that when your people don't chart medical necessity, our billers can't bill? Does fraud mean anything to you? Well, let me tell you something. When you give me garbage like this in your charting, I can't send it out for reimbursement, which means I can't pay our bills, or your people, or your salary.
Did you tap the button multiple times? By making insulting remarks, especially in a public setting, the hospital administrator is clearly demonstrating bullying behavior. Another term for this is abusive conduct. Abusive conduct has been defined as conduct of an employer or employee in the workplace with malice that a reasonable person would find hostile, offensive, and unrelated to an employer's legitimate business interests. Abusive conduct may include repeated infliction of verbal abuse, such as the use of derogatory remarks, insults, and epithets, verbal or physical conduct that a reasonable person would find threatening, intimidating, or humiliating, or the gratuitous sabotage or undermining of a person's work performance. This would not be an isolated incident, but a pattern of conduct. A single act is not considered bullying unless it is especially severe and egregious. Can you spot which of the following behaviors might be considered abusive conduct? Sort each of these behaviors into the relevant category.
The first behavior listed is sharing ideas on how to improve performance with coworkers. This will be dropped under not abusive. The next behavior is suggesting a coworker quits. This will be dropped under might be abusive. Telling a team member the wrong location for an important meeting. This would be dropped under might be abusive. Yelling at a coworker in front of others when they make a mistake. This would fall under might be abusive. Texting a list of good lunch spots to a new coworker. We'll drop this under not abusive. Including another person's ideas in your presentation without contributing their work. This would be dropped under might be abusive. Giving feedback to a coworker if something they did bothered you. We can drop this under not abusive.
Good choices. It seems like you can spot the difference between potentially abusive conduct and sharing information with coworkers. For example, it is okay for someone to let their coworker know if something bothers them, so long as it is done in a respectful way and in an appropriate setting. However, it is never okay for someone to yell at their coworker, even if they make a serious mistake. Abusive conduct is harmful both to individuals and the workplace. It's important to put a stop to bullying when you see it and not engage in it yourself.
The next set of topics we'll cover is California protections, additional California protections, and bystander intervention.
Employees and job applicants are covered by federal law and also receive additional state protections.
The California Code of Regulations defines harassment because of sex to include sexual harassment, gender harassment, and harassment based on pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical conditions. State regulations define sexual harassment as unwanted sexual advances or visual, verbal, or physical conduct of a sexual nature. This definition includes many forms of offensive behavior and includes gender-based harassment of a person of the same sex as the harasser. Can you recognize discrimination in the context of recruiting and hiring? Our next video includes a conversation between two managers, and some of their remarks indicate attitudes that could result in discrimination. Each time you see or hear something you feel could lead to unfair hiring decisions, drag a red flag anywhere onto the screen. Your flags will register at the bottom of the screen. Click Continue to begin.
Oh, hey, I never heard back from you on that open spot we have in the field.
The interview list. You included a woman.
Right. Yeah, she meets all our qualifications and she's highly recommended.
Well, we've never had a woman in this job before. It's hard physical work.
Well, the strength requirement in the job position is listed at 25 pounds. She can do that.
Yeah, but she's young. What if she gets pregnant?
Well, we can't consider that.
Okay. But what about this other one? Now, you can't tell by the name, but I just have a feeling that this person is, what do you call it, transitioning?
And if that is the case?
Well, it just makes you wonder. This job has travel, troubleshooting out on work sites, some pretty tough places.
Yeah, so...
Late night meetings, contractors, it can get pretty rough.
And your point is?
Something could happen. It might not be safe for a woman or for a, I just think we shouldn't put certain types of people into that kind of position. Yeah, I'm just trying to be responsible here.
How many inappropriate comments did you find in this situation? The answer is somewhat subjective. The hiring manager in the video demonstrated potentially harassing behavior related to several legally protected characteristics: sex.
Well, we've never had a woman in this job before.
Pregnancy.
What if she gets pregnant?
And gender identity.
I just have a feeling that this person is, what do you call it, transitioning?
Bias means having a preconceived opinion about something or someone. In the workplace, it applies when our actions are influenced by thoughts and feelings that may not have anything to do with the person we are actually making decisions about.
Bias can take many forms, both conscious and unconscious. A conscious bias is one that we know about and acknowledge. But unconscious or implicit bias is more treacherous because it lurks under the surface, and the unfairness it causes is harder to pinpoint. It can lead us to respond to individuals based on cultural stereotypes rather than on their own abilities and qualifications. What do you think? Was the manager correct to consider gender differences to protect job applicants?
The three options listed for this video are: yes, the manager needs to consider the safety of a job applicant. Maybe, coworkers may not feel comfortable with these applicants and there is a risk of harassment. Or, no, applicants should only be judged on whether they have the experience and skills needed for the job. This is the option we will be selecting.
That's correct. While possibly quite well-meaning, this manager's decision not to consider all qualified applicants is unfair. He should hire the best person for the job, regardless of sex or gender identity.
Who is protected? Just about everyone associated with the workplace. Employees, independent contractors, unpaid interns, volunteers, and job applicants.
In fact, California has been on the forefront of workplace discrimination laws, enacting a comprehensive Civil Rights Act in 1959, half a decade before the federal government enacted the Civil Rights Act of 1964. These laws protect workers from unfair discrimination based on characteristics that have nothing to do with whether or not they can get the job done.
In California, there is a long list of protected characteristics. These include sex, race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, disability, and many others, as you see here. Again, an individual is protected if they fall into one of these groups, or if they are perceived to be a member of one of these groups. When you take a minute to read them all, you realize that every one of us is protected under these laws. We all fall into one or more of these categories. And it's important to know local laws as well. Within California, certain cities have their own rules. For example, height and weight are protected classes in San Francisco. And the laws change. In 2019, California added protections for traits historically associated with race, including hair texture and protective hairstyles. The new law prohibits grooming policies that disproportionately affect people based on their race, such as bans on afros, braids, twists, and locks. An exception to those protections is what is referred to as a bona fide occupational qualification, or BFOQ. This occurs in the rare instance where there is a specific and justifiable need to discriminate. For example, religious organizations can require that applicants for positions to lead their congregations are followers of the same religion, and casting directors can restrict auditions to actors who look young to play the role of young characters. Just keep in mind that the BFOQ exemption is closely scrutinized and must be narrowly applied.
You might wonder how you can keep track of all these laws, rules, and regulations. Fortunately, there are simple guidelines that should keep you compliant in almost every situation. First, maintain clearly written job descriptions to establish the minimum requirements for each job and use them to evaluate how well each job applicant measures up. Second, base employment decisions and evaluations on job-related criteria and do not consider characteristics that are unrelated to specific job requirements.
California goes beyond federal law in providing an expanded list of workplace protections. It is important to be aware of additional protections that might apply in your particular locale.
Now let's look more closely at additional California protections related to sex and gender.
The prohibition against sex discrimination extends to sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Also protected is an individual's status as a victim of domestic violence, assault, or stalking.
Jennifer, you've got to take table 6.
I can't. I already got my hands full.
Yeah, but he said he's waiting for his boyfriend. I don't think I can handle it.
Come on, man. He's not hurting anybody.
Maybe you should help him. He might be your type.
You guys are losers. I got this.
You work in a restaurant. You overhear this exchange. What do you think should happen?
The options listed are: you should sympathize with Ryan that he was being asked to do something uncomfortable. You should tell Ryan that not serving the customer based on his sexual orientation may be unlawful. Or, since the customer was not aware of the situation, you do not have to act. We will be selecting the second option.
Even though it may not be comfortable for Ryan, refusing service like this could be considered unlawful discrimination. Sexual orientation has to do with the gender of the person that someone is romantically and sexually attracted to. Gender expression is a person's gender-related appearance and behavior. For example, this includes how they dress and wear their hair, and how they talk and move. This also covers those who are gender nonconforming, which means they don't fit cultural stereotypes. Gender identity is a person's sense of their own gender. For example, whether they feel like they are a woman or a man, which may or may not match the sex they were assigned at birth. The term transgender, or trans, describes those whose gender identity differs from their assigned sex at birth. But here's what's important to remember. Differences can make people uncomfortable, which may lead to harassment. Regardless of our sexual orientation, gender expression, or gender identity, We all need to be treated with the same dignity and respect as everyone else.
Oh, hey, Tina. I mean, Tim.
Yes, please. Please call me Tim.
I meant Tim. Tim, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm just gonna see you at. We'll talk later. I'll see you at the meeting. Okay.
He just wants to be called Tim.
It's awkward. What are we gonna do about bathrooms? I get it, kind of, but I'd rather not share a bathroom with him.
I don't know. It's different.
All they have to do is call me Tim. I just really don't see what the big deal is.
I know you've been through a lot already. Now it's going to take them a little time, but I think they're going to come around.
I hope so.
It's going to be fine.
All right. Thank you. I'll see you later, okay?
Bye.
Bye.
Of the gender characteristics listed here, which is most likely to apply to Tim?
The options listed are sexual orientation, gender expression, gender identification, and transgender, or it's unclear. We'll select all the different options to see why which is correct and why which are incorrect.
That's not the best answer. Based on what we've seen, it's not clear. What's important to know is that Tim is protected. He cannot be discriminated against on the basis of any of these characteristics.
When dealing with gender in the workplace, every situation is different. It's helpful not to draw your own conclusions or categorize people, even if you think you know the situation. And prying or demanding personal details is not necessary either.
Now let's look at some practical examples of how these issues can affect your workplace.
Pronouns. A pronoun is a word that refers to a person. At work, we need to honor the pronouns that people use about themselves, whether that is she, he, or a gender-neutral pronoun such as they, or just their name. It is generally okay to ask which pronoun you should use if you are not sure. Persistently and intentionally using the wrong pronouns may be a form of harassment. An example of this conduct would be when a coworker continues to refer to someone as he or him, even after being advised they use they/them pronouns. The right thing to do is simple. Make sure everyone uses the pronoun that each individual uses to identify themselves. If someone forgets one day and uses the wrong pronoun, a quick and sincere apology and continuing to move forward in the conversation is an appropriate way to address the mistake.
Dress codes. If you have dress codes, yes, you can enforce them, but you must be fair and consistent. An individual who identifies and dresses as a woman will come under the same dress code as other women in the organization, and someone who identifies and dresses as a man falls under the same dress code as other men.
California law requires single-use restrooms to be labeled for use by any gender. This law is intended to remove the discomfort of bathroom choice for trans and non-binary individuals who don't consistently identify as one or the other. Besides, it makes sense for everyone to be able to use whatever single-use bathroom is available, regardless of gender.
Discrimination because of sex in California also includes sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Trans people know which bathroom is the right one for them to use. Let them decide. Do use a trans person's new name and pronouns, even when they are not in the room. If you mistakenly use the wrong name or pronouns, don't make a scene, but do correct yourself, apologize, and move on.
Studies show that one of the best ways to stop harassment is when bystanders, such as fellow employees, step in and tell harassers to stop.
All right, the purple daffodil, ladies and gentlemen, that was where we were at Friday night, because Friday night was Blonde's night. And I'll tell you, man, we got in there, and there was this girl. She had to be new. She had to be new, but this girl, unbelievable.
If you observe behavior that crosses the line, especially if you notice that it bothers a coworker, what would you do? Would you speak up and say something?
Hey, knock it off. Not everybody appreciates this kind of talk. It's just inappropriate.
This coworker was able to speak up and make a situation better for her coworkers, but bystanders do not always take action. Here's a list of reasons people might give for not intervening. What are the top 3 reasons in your opinion? Drag them into the numbered boxes.
The options listed are, it won't do any good, I hate confrontation, I'm too busy, I don't want to get involved, I'm not sure that it's really harassment, and I don't want others to think I can't take a joke. The three we will be selecting is, it won't do any good, I hate confrontation, and I'm too busy.
Some of these reasons may strike you as more common than others, but any of them could apply. However, even though it isn't always easy to intervene, it can be a very powerful tool to help your coworkers. Remember, intervention doesn't have to mean directly confronting the harasser. For example, you can follow up with your coworker afterwards and give support, or you can go to HR or a manager to get help. A useful framework to help think through and remember some different ways of intervening is the 4 Ds. The first D is distract. For example, striking up an unrelated conversation to change topics. The next is delayed support. This could involve waiting for the offending party to leave and then checking in with your coworker and offering support. Another is delegate, getting help from others with authority. And finally, there is direct intervention. We saw an example of this earlier when Susie told her coworkers to knock it off when they were sharing inappropriate details about a recent night out. Let's put ourselves into some different scenarios and try to identify what type of intervention is being used in each case. You're walking down a corridor and see a senior executive, Evan, standing very close to a coworker, Kayla, in a way that doesn't look quite right. However, you are busy, so you keep walking. Later on, you see Kayla at the coffee machine, so you join her and discreetly mention what you saw and ask if everything is okay. What type of intervention did you use?
The 4 Ds are listed on this screen. Distract, support, or direct intervention. For this scenario, we will be selecting delayed support.
Good choice. By checking back with Kayla afterwards, you provided her with delayed support. You are waiting for a meeting to start, and you ask a coworker about a recent vacation she took overseas. She starts to tell stories that involve cultural differences, and you are worried it will offend some others in the room. You change the subject by sharing your plans for your upcoming vacation. What type of intervention did you use?
The 4 Ds are listed. Distract, delayed support, delegate, or direct intervention. The option we're going to select is distract.
That's right. Distracting someone from continuing on with offensive remarks is an effective way to get everyone back on track. You are the night manager at a hotel, and Lucy, one of the bartenders, comes to you and says that there is a drunk guest who is berating another member of the team. She asks you for help with the guest. What type of intervention did Lucy use?
The 4 Ds are listed. Distract, delayed support, delegate, or direct intervention. The option we'll be selecting for this scenario is delegate.
Good choice. Lucy did the right thing by delegating the responsibility of dealing with the drunk guest to the manager.
In minor cases, like overhearing an inappropriate joke, bystanders are often comfortable speaking up and can be very effective in contributing to a respectful environment. But in more serious cases, it can be very difficult to speak up. Make sure you know where to go for help, either for yourself or for your coworkers.
Now let's return to our warehouse scene to see just how important bystander intervention can be.
There you are. Did I scare you? No need to be scared.
Right. It's okay. Don't worry.
Here, put this down. Let me see you.
Oh, I should finish up. I have to pick up my kid.
Yeah, I know. That's why you asked for this shift, right? Do you like it? Do you want to keep it?
Yes. Yes, it's working out great.
Well, maybe if you showed a little more gratitude, you'd get to keep it.
Hey, what's going on?
Nothing. I was just helping her out.
Okay, well, I'm here to finish up so she can leave.
Good. Okay. Right, back to work.
What's that about? Are you okay?
I don't know. He came out of nowhere and asked me if I want to keep my job.
Why was he grabbing you like that?
I don't know.
We have to report this. It's not right.
In this example of seriously unwelcome behavior, a coworker stepped in and prevented something very bad from getting even worse. In a few minutes, we'll see what happens when these two employees go together to file a complaint.
Bystander intervention is one of the best ways to stop harassment. Coworkers should be encouraged to speak up on each other's behalf and supported when they do so.
The next topics we will cover is if you've been targeted, complaints, protection from retaliation, remedies, and civility.
Now here's another challenging subject. What if you become the recipient of what you believe may be another's harassment? What can you do to stop harassment if you feel that you are a victim of it?
You better delete that. You'll regret it. Seriously.
Okay, it's gone.
As if that could be okay in anybody's universe.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I'll delete my comments too.
Yeah, and tell all your bozo friends to do the same. This stops now.
Right, it stops now.
Speak up. Demand that the harassment stop. Get help if you feel that your wishes are being disregarded. But what if you're not sure about the motives of the other person? What do you say when the behavior is not so obvious?
Let's go back to an earlier story and help find the best resolution.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I scheduled an appointment right now, but why don't we continue this over? Meet me in the lobby, 6 o'clock.
It's always the manager's responsibility to act professionally. However, given the manager has put Shannon in this situation, the following are 3 possible responses that she could give to his directive. Click on each to see some potential outcomes.
So the first response is, go along, okay, sure.
I'm sorry, I have such a sweet tooth. I just devour the cake. You hardly touch it. It's great. It's amazing. Another round, please. Still nothing for you.
No, I'm
Nothing.
okay. Thanks.
All right. Okay, so where were we? Oh, yes. The 10K on Sunday. Let's do it together.
The situation spiraled further. Let's look at the next possible response.
So the second possible response is to make excuses. Oh, sorry, I have other plans this evening.
Oh, sorry. I have other plans this evening.
That's fine. We'll have dinner tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night?
That did not work either. Let's look at the next possible response.
The third possible response is to express boundaries. Actually, I'd be more comfortable meeting here at the office. Do you have any time in your schedule tomorrow?
Actually, I feel more comfortable meeting here at the office. Do you have any free time in your schedule tomorrow?
Sure. All right. Let's meet here tomorrow afternoon at 3:30.
Terrific. Thanks.
The last choice seemed to establish appropriate boundaries. Again, no matter which of the 3 choices Shannon makes, it is always the manager's responsibility to act professionally and ensure his or her interactions do not make their subordinates feel uncomfortable.
It takes courage to speak up, and it's true that you can't predict what will happen next. If you don't feel comfortable setting a boundary like this, or don't feel that you will be heard, be sure to get help from HR, a different manager, or anyone else in your chain of command who can help. We'll talk more about this as we continue through the course.
Click the image to hear a statement you might use to set a boundary.
No, really. This really does offend me.
I get uncomfortable when you make comments like that about people's religions or where they come from.
That's interesting. Can you explain why you think it's okay to say that to me?
How would you feel? if somebody said that to you.
If you feel that you are a target of harassment, you are protected. Speak up if you feel comfortable doing so, or get help. Your employer will want to know. Now let's look at what might happen when a complaint is made.
At first, he would look at me funny. Then I think he followed me outside last night. He stopped when he noticed my ride was already there. Do you have to write that down? I don't want anyone to know.
It's okay, just let him.
I want to document what was said, and we may need to talk to others, but we won't share anything. Thank you.
Your employers will appreciate you bringing any concerns to their attention. They will want to fix anything bad that may have happened and do their best to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Hey. How's it going today? I'm fine. Yes? So, I have to tell you something. He's not going to be coming back. They said I'm not just going to be filling in, I'm going to stay in charge.
That's great.
Yes.
That's really great.
Yes. So, everything is going to be much better now.
Oh, thank you, boss.
No problem.
Your employer will also want to protect you from any retaliation for objecting to unwelcome behavior. Retaliation is against the law.
So be sure to let your employer know about any retaliation you believe you are experiencing. And be sure not to participate in any such behavior yourself. Even subtle forms of retaliation are not okay. Why do you think retaliation is unlawful? Pick the best answer.
The options listed are: it is uncivil behavior, it damages workplace morale, it discourages people from exercising their rights, or it causes stress and absenteeism. The option we will be selecting is it discourages people from exercising their rights.
Good choice.
Retaliation is unlawful because it can discourage people from exercising their rights to object to harassing behavior in their workplace. That's why it can bring consequences for those who engage in retaliation, even if the initial objection is found to be without merit.
Once a complaint is filed, an investigation will take place to establish the facts, and then a determination will be made. Those receiving and investigating your complaint may not be able to promise confidentiality, but will attempt to be as discreet as possible. Retaliation is unlawful and brings consequences of its own, even if the initial complaint is not found to have met the threshold of unlawful harassment.
In this section, we'll talk about remedies, or steps that are intended to make things better after a harassment incident or complaint.
Hey. How's it going today? I'm fine. Yes? So, I have to tell you something. He's not going to be coming back. They said I'm not just going to be filling in, I'm going to stay in charge.
That's great.
Yes.
That's really great.
Yes. So, everything is going to be much better now.
Oh, thank you, boss.
No problem.
In this scenario, after an investigation confirmed the facts reported by Janine and her coworker, the remedy was to terminate the supervisor and promote a new manager who would follow company policies. Now let's revisit another scene, this time where a job applicant experienced discrimination.
And when I asked if I could start just one day later, they withdrew the offer. It doesn't seem right, does it?
What is a suitable remedy here?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for coming in today. Of course. Now, did you see your office?
Yes.
All right. Well, it is really good to have you on board. I'm sorry for the delay. We are going to work around your schedule now.
Wow, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So what is a remedy? It's when you make efforts to repair the damage that may have been caused to the victim as best you can and prevent future harm to the victim and the company by taking steps to correct problems so they aren't repeated.
Let's look more closely at the types of remedies that can be applied to rectify instances of workplace harassment and discrimination. Internal remedies include hiring, reinstatement, or promotion of individuals who were discriminated or retaliated against. External remedies can be imposed by government agencies or result from lawsuits brought by individuals or entities. These might include cease and desist orders, changes in employer policies, or requirements to provide additional training. Financial remedies include back pay, fines, or damages that are often very significant. Remedies are actions taken to make things better after a harassment incident or complaint. Remedies can be in the form of fines or damages, or the requirement to take action to right wrongs and prevent future harm.
Civility. It may seem like an old-fashioned concept, but civility is about respect, and it's key to any functioning and successful workplace. All it takes is one person acting badly to poison the atmosphere. Sometimes, if left unchecked, the behavior of one bad apple impacts the entire work group, who may collectively descend into bullying and harassment.
It's not about just having a bad day. You know, everyone has a bad day sometimes. But this is constant. It's becoming the norm around here, and I'm starting to see it everywhere.
Here's a civility-incivility checklist for you. Do you or anyone else in your workplace do any of the following? Be honest. This is for your own use. Answers will not be retained.
The options listed here are making crude remarks or belittling comments, engage in malicious gossip, interrupt people, not listen to people, answer emails and texts during meetings, pass judgment on others who are different, neglect to say please or thank you, put others down privately or publicly, complain too much, not speak up, not seek and welcome feedback, not greet and acknowledge others, take credit for others' ideas. For the purpose of this training, the correct answer here is to treat everyone with respect regardless of position.
Hopefully you checked only one box, this one. If you checked any others, then it's time to get to work on the culture in your work group. Incivility can start a slide into workplace harassment. Rudeness is contagious, but fortunately, so is civility.
We have one more slide to complete, and then we will have reached the conclusion. Please listen all the way through for additional instructions.
You're nearing the end of this course. We've covered a lot of material, all focused on supporting a workplace environment where unwelcome and harassing behavior is not acceptable, and where everyone can thrive and contribute to the success of your organization.
Workplaces that tolerate harassment have more of it. Workplaces that do not tolerate harassment have less of it. While it's important to know the legal definitions of various forms of discrimination and harassment that we've covered, it's even more important to think about the practical examples you've seen, how harassment can creep into your workplace, and what you need to do to prevent or stop it. So how will you create a respectful, harassment-free environment in your workplace?
Well, we've reached the end of the course. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.
You're almost done. Just click Continue to download your organization. Please download the following documents, then click Continue. Here are some statements that you now need to read. In each case, please select whether you agree or disagree with the statement.
Before we complete the course, please read through each statement. Sexual harassment is prohibited by the law and is also prohibited by my employer's policy. Harassment or discrimination based on sex, race, color, religion, national origin, age, disability, or any other characteristic protected by federal, state, or local law is unlawful and also violates my employer's policy. Sexual harassment includes unwelcome sexual advances or romantic interest, or other unwelcome conduct that may be verbal, visual, or physical. Sexual harassment does not have to be motivated by sexual desire. A serious form of sexual harassment involves offering job benefits in exchange for sexual favors, or alternatively, threatening a person's job if they don't agree to offer. It is also unlawful and a violation of my employer's policy to retaliate against someone who resists unwelcome behavior, files a complaint about harassment or perceived harassment, or participates in an investigation. Managers and supervisors are required to report any harassment reported to them or observed by them. I may be subject to disciplinary action up to and possibly including termination if I engage in unlawful harassment or discrimination.
Congratulations, you have successfully completed this course on harassment in the workplace. Click the button to record your completion.
To record your completion, please call or text me at 562-201-1916. Again, my name is Selena Hernandez, and I am the Human Resources Business Partner assigned to your building, and I can be reached at 562-201-1916. Please send me record of your completion, and I will be sure to forward you the acknowledgement form. Thank you so much again for your time.